Welcome back to Talking Sports with Brandon. This is the NFL Championship recap video. So again, if you didn't check out the last video, which was the preview to championship weekend, or really championship Sunday, then definitely watch that. You'll hear my picks, my thoughts about going into those games, about what each team needed to do in order to win those games, and obviously we picked who was going to advance to the Super Bowl. So with the Sunday being past us now, we know who will be in the Super Bowl in the NFC and the AFC. And it is, again, I want you to check out the last video, but spoiler alert, I did pick the correct winners. I did pick the Eagles in the NFC and the Chiefs in the AFC. So we're going to talk about those games in this one, kind of go through what happened, and then kind of do a little recap about that. And then we won't talk about the Super Bowl game, that much in this video, just because it is obviously you get a week of rest and then the game. So that'll be next week's video where we really dive into it and talk about it and go through what each team needs to do and how the game's going to play out and everything like that. But we will recap these games, and there was a lot of news in the NFL. I'm planning on doing a video about all that in just its own video, kind of just a recap of what has happened so far this off season. Still have a couple moves to be made, but a lot of big moves were made these last couple days, including the day I'm recording this. And I'll make a separate video about that because I think that kind of needs its own video just to really talk about all that and kind of dive into that in its own right. So we'll talk about Championship Sunday. We'll start with the first game, Eagles-Niners. And again, if you remember what I talked about in the last video, if you did watch that, I talked about how I thought I picked the Eagles to win that game. And I saw it in the Niners-Cowboys game where the Niners didn't look amazing, okay? So, in that game, their defense did play well, no doubt. But I think it was more so the Cowboys' offense not taking advantage because the Niners' defense, it's been number one all year. It's been a great defense. You look at basically since Purdy took over, they were, easily the best defense in the NFL. And you look at their second half numbers in each of those games, it was crazy. I mean, they were giving up 5.5 points per game. They were just completely destroying teams on the defensive side of the ball. But we saw in the Dallas game, and I said what their weakness was that you can go over the top against them. You can throw over the top, and if you get the ground game working, it just opens up different avenues for you. So I said for the Eagles, I wanted that ground game to be a big factor for them, and they needed to go over the top because that's the way to beat them. You can hit them over the top with off of play action or just going. They play a lot of one-on-one on the outside. You can hit guys with Brown and Smith on the outside for them. They can hit them over the top, and I think that is what we kind of saw in this game. It may not have worked out every single time, but for at least for the Eagles and their sake compared to the Cowboys, the Eagles could run the ball in this one. They didn't run the ball that efficiently. They had 44 carries for 148 yards. So 3.5 yards per carry isn't what you would love to see, but still 150 yards on the ground. That gets you somewhere. I think Dallas only had 70, somewhere around there. It was less than 100, no doubt. So you can't get a lot of things working on your offense when you have no ground game. When you're getting 1 yard, 0 yards, -1 yards on first, second down, you're putting yourself in bad situations. It's either a third and long or it's a second and long, which is going to set up most likely for 2 straight passes. So you just put yourself behind the 8 ball in that sense. And the Eagles really never did that. They never came out and were behind the chains and were putting themselves in bad situations. Now, the other part of that is that the Niners offense was just non-existent. And, we'll talk about exactly what happened in this game, but going back to the Dallas game with the Niners, you could see it. You could see that Purdy, again, you saw it in the first game a little bit. It was against a much worse defense. But you saw those first couple drives where he was shaky, he was missing throws, he just didn't look very comfortable. And then he got into a groove and he started going and everything started working out. But you saw it. You saw it just a little bit. Probably the first or maybe second time we've seen it since he's taken over where he just didn't feel comfortable in the pocket. And in this one, I, predicted that I think he'll come down to earth, and I thought that would happen against Dallas. It kind of did. Again, he wasn't that impressive in that game, but he didn't turn the ball over, which is the biggest thing. Your quarterback can be unimpressive, but if he's not going to make mistakes, put your defense in bad spots, turn the ball over, you can live with it. You can win games because of the talent and what they have on the other side of the ball. But in this one, I thought the Eagles' defense it's very comparable to Dallas's. They actually have a better pass rush because it's more, they had 4 guys with 10 plus sacks this season. They can come at you with weight in a lot of different ways. They led the league in sacks this season. It was 70 in the regular season. So I just viewed them as being a little bit more aggressive on that defensive line compared to Dallas. And despite the Niners' offensive line being really good, they have a weak interior. They had 3 guys who don't have a lot of experience, aren't the best, backups, rookies, not the best guys on the inside. And I thought you could really attack them there. And they did. And they did beat them on the edge as well. But when you have that much pressure on the interior, you can, your guys on the edge have a little bit more time. It's pushing the quarterback, moving him back, moving him outside the pocket, which is right into the edge rusher's hands. So I thought that would work. It did. It worked a lot. And, maybe this game plays differently, because obviously, again, if you watched it, which I'm sure you did, Brock Purdy gets injured very early in the game off a sack, which actually turned into a strip sack. It was actually the first drive of the game, and for the Niners, and it's maybe it plays differently. Maybe let's say it's a sack fumble and whatever, the Eagles do recover it. But, Purdy doesn't get injured. He stays in the game. He plays the entire game. Instead of the final score being 31-7, Philadelphia, I still think Philly wins because I do see Purdy really struggling with that team. But maybe it's a little bit closer. Maybe it's a little bit different. Who knows? But, again, like I said, that first drive for San Francisco, the strip sack happens. Again, they call it incomplete, but it was a strip sack. And on that play, he injures his elbow. It turns out he actually has a UCL injury, similar to Josh Allen's, but actually more severe, where it's a 6-month injury, where it's surgery or no surgery. It's almost like a baseball injury with a pitcher, so a lot more severe than Josh Allen's, but, that similar play where he's going to throw, someone hits his arm, and it just hit, the elbow, the UCL just gets in a weird way, and it tears. It kind of has like a mini tear, so he's out for a while. Obviously they're done, so it doesn't matter. But he couldn't come back in this game, and it didn't really seem like at first he was injured. But he kind of goes to the sideline. They're looking at him. You don't really know what it is at that point. You think it's an arm thing, but you're not exactly sure. Maybe they're checking up on him. He was throwing on the sideline. Looked okay, but again, that was just kind of easy warm up tosses on the sideline. He even tells Shanahan he can't go. So at that point, you were already in a bad spot. 1, going into the game, I believe. And then 2, Philadelphia on their first possession went down and scored a touchdown. So it's already 7-0. Then you just gave him, obviously had a strip sack. They get the ball. They have it, basically midfield. And it's already not looking good. And now you realize on your next drive that Purdy can't even go out. And you turn to Josh Johnson, who's been a journeyman throughout the NFL. He's been in the league forever. Obviously not the best quarterback. That's why he's a 4th string. He was on the practice squad for Denver about a month ago. He's been with San Francisco a couple times, but still, it's not. It's Purdy was already meeting exceeding all expectations to its fullest degree, and that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened for them. But when you turn to Josh Johnson in a game like this, it's just not the same. Lucky enough, they did, after that strip sack, force a punt. So they did force a punt. That could have been a huge momentum change right then and there. Because at that point, again, you still didn't know. Because it was only 7-0. Purdy, again, you didn't know he wasn't going to come back at that point. But they did force a punt. So that was good. But then you realize that Josh Johnson's in the game. It's going to be a lot of runs. It's going to be very quick, easy passes. But again, that pass rush is all over you at all times. They have to punt, and they kind of hold Philadelphia for the next couple drives. They kind of force them 3 and outs. They do good things defensively. Again, that defense is still playing up to the expectation that they set during the regular season. But they finally force another 3 and out, and San Francisco goes down and scores a touchdown. They actually do score a touchdown. So you get all the way down. McCaffrey kind of puts the team on his back on this drive. His 23-yard touchdown run was just all him. He just broke a couple tackles, moved past guys, got the touchdown. So all of a sudden, with 8 minutes, 30 seconds left in the second quarter. It's a 7-7 game. I mean, despite all that's happened, they even had, Bosa got hit on the sideline. Fred Warner was down on one of the first couple plays of the first drive. They did come back and play, but like all your top guys are getting injured now. You obviously lose your quarterback. You're on the road, tough environment. And at that point, you were down 7-0. And then all of a sudden, it's 7-7. But to answer San Francisco's touchdown drive, Philadelphia puts a great drive together. 7 minutes, 14 plays, 75-yard touchdown. Just go down the field. And they get all the way down to the 13-yard line. Miles Sanders scores a 13-yard touchdown. His second touchdown of the game. He scored, maybe not having the most efficient day on the ground, but they had 4 rushing touchdowns. Kind of hard to argue with that when you put that many touchdowns on the board as a running back group and just as a rushing unit. So they go down, make it 14-7. And at this point, it's a minute 30 left on the clock. You have Josh Johnson. It's 14-7. You've dealt with all that you've dealt with throughout this first half of this game. Do you just take it to the half? Do you just take it to the half and go into the locker room down 14-7? San Francisco gets the ball to start the second half as well. That probably would have been the smarter play, and especially how it worked out, it would have been the smarter play. I believe they had all 3 timeouts, at least 2 of the timeouts I believe they had. So you have timeouts. You have a good kicker in the playoffs. He's never missed in the postseason, whether it's a field goal or an extra point. Doesn't have the biggest leg, but he's never missed, so you feel confident. They get all the way to the 36-yard line. So again, a minute 11 left on the clock. You're ready at the 36-yard line. It's not bad. Need another 30 to 40 yards. You can get that done with a couple timeouts and some time on the clock. But Josh Johnson, again, is this just whatever, him not playing a lot, whatever it is, it's a shotgun formation. Normal snap, no miscommunication, nothing like that, no eyes off the ball, just a hike and then a let's go. Hits him right in the hands. He just misses it. Fumbles again, not high, not low, just right at him. Just misses it. Fumbles it, kind of bounces on the ground a little bit. Philadelphia recovers. That was the turning point right there. Despite everything that's happened, if you go into halftime down 14-7, even if you somehow get a drive together and maybe get a field goal, whatever it is, just no turnover, no points for Philadelphia, you feel super confident. At least, maybe not super confident, but you at least feel better about yourselves that you're down 7 points. You have to deal with having Josh Johnson in there at quarterback, but you're giving your team a chance. And we've seen that San Francisco in that first half was stopping Philadelphia. Despite 2 drives, they punted the rest of the drives. So they were stopping them. But he fumbles. Philadelphia recovers at the 30-yard line of San Francisco. They go right down the field, get a touchdown, 10-yard rush from Boston Scott. Now it's 21-7. It went from all of a sudden with a minute 36 on the clock, 7-7, all the way down to halftime, 21-7. This time you kind of knew the game was going to be over anyways because Josh Johnson's starting, whatever, everything's going on. But once it's 21-7, there's no chance that San Francisco can win this game. And we all knew it. You were kind of just, that second half was just waiting for the game to end, to be honest, because you just knew you knew the inevitable, and you were just waiting for that to happen. So, second half starts, again, San Francisco punts, Philadelphia punts, a 3-and-out from San Francisco, and then Philly puts the nail in the coffin. They go 15 plays, 91 yards, 8-minute drive for a touchdown. Just go down the field. Again, just running the ball. Hurts was showing a little bit more with the running game, which was good to see considering he didn't need to do it, and he didn't do it a lot, but he did it a little bit in the second half. Showed that he can do it, and that's going to bode well for the Super Bowl. Again, another week of rest, get the shoulder right, get him for the Super Bowl. But they were just going down the field. Again, 6 yards, 17 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. They were just going down the field. They even do a 4th and 6 where they had to punt. And, San Francisco did stop them. But, of course, they run into the kicker, or the punter, I guess, and gives Philly a first down. Again, kind of some boneheaded plays by San Francisco. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's just realization that, it's just nothing's going your way today. They had some, bad penalties. They had a couple of calls go against them. I didn't mention it, but on that first opening drive, touchdown for Philadelphia, it was a 4th down. They went for it, which was kind of crazy. And they do a deep shot to Devonta Smith. He catches it. They call it a catch, and they hurry to the line, get a playoff turned out he did not catch that ball, not even close. And Philly, San Francisco didn't challenge it. There was no expedited review from up top. That was a huge call because at that point, again, Brock Purdy's still in. You would have got the ball, I believe, at like midfield, somewhere around there. It was 4th and 3 at the 35-yard line. So 35-yard line, already, pretty decent field position, not bad. But to stop them on that 4th down right there, that would have been huge. Again, still 0-0 game, cuts the momentum. They're not up 7-0. Purdy's still in there. Who knows? Maybe there's not a strip sack where he hurts his arm. A lot of things could have changed. It's definitely a butterfly effect situation. But they didn't challenge it. Upstairs didn't review it. It just never got called in. But, by the time we did see the replay of where he fully dropped it, they really weren't showing us good shots. They were showing us shots where you just couldn't tell. And they finally showed one shot a couple plays later where clearly it was on the ground. He just didn't catch it. So tough break, whether that's San Francisco's fault for not challenging or upstairs. But that is the way that it went. But again, on that 91-yard touchdown drive to make it 28-7, where you knew the game was out of reach anyways at 21-7, but 28-7 is obviously an even more insurmountable lead. They go down the field, and then Hurts scores with a 1-yard touchdown. And the rest of the game was pretty much just back and forth. Philly added another field goal, but again, at that point, it was Josh Johnson actually got concussed in the second half. They had to go McCaffrey at quarterback. Brock Purdy came in, but he was just handing the ball off. When I think he actually did throw it a couple times, but it was just very short passes. Again, he was playing with a torn UCL, which they didn't know at the time, but they probably had a sense of. But they needed a quarterback, and whatever happened, maybe they even hurt his UCL even more. I'm not really sure, but if he didn't throw it that much, it was only a couple times, so it was very short. But this game, which I think it should have been a better game. If they're fully healthy this entire game, I don't think it's 31-7. I think Philly wins, and I think they probably win by 7, but I think it's closer to maybe 24-17, somewhere around that range. I think it's just a closer game where you probably feel that Philadelphia has the advantage the entire way, and you're kind of just waiting for them to get that one final drive, that one turnover, or the one big sack, something like that to fully finish the game, but it would have been a lot closer, no doubt. So, it's unfortunate that, the first, championship game was kind of a dud, to be honest. But Philadelphia, they proved they were the best team in the regular season, despite some doubts. And those doubts were, real. I don't think those were just made up to kind of bring down a team that was, the best team in the regular season. They really put those to rest. The defense played amazing. The offense, they didn't need to do a lot, but they did enough. And obviously they're moving on to the Super Bowl. So that was the first game. Again, Eagles win over San Francisco 31-7. Then we move into the second game, which was always going to be the better game. It was Bengals-Chiefs, rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. It was always going to be a better game, no matter what happened in that first game. But we get the news earlier in that day, on Sunday, that Kelsey, he hurts his back in practice on Friday. On the last play, of course, it just always seems to be like that. The last play of practice, he hurts his back. Was a game-time decision for this one. They're working on him Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday morning, even right before the game. They needed to see him test his back in warm-ups to see if he was even going to play. That would have been a huge, huge change to this game if Kelsey couldn't go, because they don't have any receiving help on the outside. And as it turned out in this game, all the guys they had on the outside got injured. So if Kelsey didn't play, they would have had literally no one to play wide receiver or tight end, be a receiving threat for them. And it would have been a huge blow. But he does play. He really didn't look injured at all, but he did play. Had a good game as well. But like I said, that receiving core for Kansas City in this game, they all got injured. McCole Hardman got injured. Juju got injured. I believe someone else got injured as well. They weren't playing with Watson in this game. Tony got injured. So, on the outside, they had practice squad guys, they had backups, they had guys who really hadn't played at all this season. They did have MVS, and that was definitely he was the biggest X factor in this game. He made the plays when they needed to. But this game was all Mahomes. The Chiefs obviously won. They went 23-20 against the Bengals. Look, there's a lot of conversation about a lot of other stuff, but I want to focus on Mahomes because he won this game. He was sensational. Playing on a high ankle sprain, which, again, I guess you could tell that he was playing with an ankle injury, but the fact that he had a high ankle sprain, which maybe it really wasn't, maybe it was just an ankle sprain because again, high ankle sprain is at least 2 to 4 weeks. I don't care who you are, what you are. It's 2 to 4 weeks. That's what it is. The fact that he played this well with that injury was crazy. I mean, 326 yards to the air, 2 touchdowns. Didn't run it a lot, only 3 times, but he had the one big run towards the end of the game, which we'll get into, where he just they needed it and he did it, and he was just great. I mean, this is why, 5 years as a starter in this league, 5 AFC Championship games. So I picked him because this was a legacy game for him. If he loses this game, that's in 5 years with 5 straight AFC Championship games at home as well. That's 2 times to the Super Bowl, one where he lost, and that was a lot on that wasn't a lot on him because his team was just so beat up in that game. But they lost that game. Again, the Niners game that they did win in the Super Bowl, they probably should have lost that game. There was definitely a lot of ways they could have lost that game. It just turned out that they won. But again, they lose to the Patriots. They would have lost to the Bengals last year, and then they would have, if they would have lost this game, there would have been 2 straight years against the Bengals. They would have lost at home. So I picked them more so because of legacy. The Bengals may have a more talented team, and Burrow's kind of that guy. And I do like Burrow, I do, but I think a lot of people, the stakes are high for him. A lot of people have huge expectations. I mean, he met them. I mean, his second year in the league as a starter, basically his first year, because his rookie year he got injured. He tore his ACL only a couple games into the season. So basically his full year as a full-time starter, he led them to the Super Bowl. And he was very close this year as well. So, he will be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, no doubt. But there's no reason it's not Mahomes. It looked like Allen for a while. Then Burrow had a late surge, but it's always been Mahomes. It just has been. I wouldn't say I'm a big Mahomes guy, but he just is the best quarterback in the league. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He's going to win MVP this year. 40 plus touchdowns, 5,000 yards, 14-3 record as well. Just there's no doubt. People pick this team not to make the playoffs, and even if they did pick them to make the playoffs, it was as a wild card. They'd maybe win one game and then lose. That's what people picked them as. I thought they'd be a wild card because I thought the Chargers would win this division. And even with the Chargers injuries, I think if they were healthy, I think the Chiefs still would have won the division, but it would have been closer from 14-3 to 10-7, which is what the two records were. I think it would have been a little bit closer, but even still, I didn't have them. I don't know if I had them making the Super Bowl, but I didn't have them losing in the first round or losing to this team, that team. No, they were definitely going to be still one of the best teams in the league, no doubt. And they proved a lot of people wrong this season. And even in this game, I think a lot of people were high on the Bengals, thinking back to last year, Burrow's never lost to Mahomes. You think about the games, and Mahomes just kind of put all that to the side and kind of just played. He just did what he did on the field, and then obviously after the game, you heard his comments, but he put the team on his back again. On the ground, they had 20 rushes for 42 yards. So he was getting no help from the ground game. Defense was good, not amazing, but, he just did what he had to do in this game, and it was super impressive. So we'll kind of run through the game a little bit here, but, first half ends with them up 13-6 Kansas City. Burrow throws an interception, which didn't lead to anything, which is lucky, but did throw an interception after a Chiefs touchdown. That could have been a huge turning point. It was 13-3 at that point, under 4 minutes in the first half. Didn't turn into anything. Chiefs punted, and then the Bengals actually went down, got a field goal. You would have liked to see them get a touchdown there. They got all the way down to the 5-yard line, but they just couldn't get it in the end zone. That could have been a big change, instead of 13-6 going into half, 13-10, changed a lot of things. But again, they at least get the field goal, make it 13-6. Not the best first half from Cincy, but they at least keep it within a score, keep it manageable, give yourself a chance at this game. And then we move to the second half, which is where all the things happened. So Chiefs go out, they go 3-and-out. Bengals go right down the field, score a touchdown. Huge drive from them. They really needed that drive. Again, they just needed a good drive like that. So they get that drive, go down the field, 27-yard touchdown pass to T. Higgins, jump ball at T. Higgins. It's pretty easy with someone of his size and his ability to just fight for 50-50 balls. And it was on a 3rd-and-6 as well. They're in field goal range, but you needed a touchdown, so that was a gutsy call. I think they probably would have gone for it anyways. Maybe not. I think they probably would have. We'll never know, but they got the touchdown, make it 13-13. Chiefs answer right back with a touchdown, though. 11 plays, 77 yards, right down the field for a touchdown. just methodically moving the ball down the field. They get, there was a play, a huge play, where it's 3rd and 7. MVS gets the ball. Looks like he's short, but he reaches the ball out. But even live, it looked like he was still just a little bit short. Would have set up a big call because they would have been at the 20-yard line of Cincinnati. 4th and 1, maybe 4th and inches, but whatever, still 4th down. You would obviously you're going for it, but if you don't get it, then it's right back to the Bengals. Now they have the momentum again. They have a potential drive to go down the field, score a touchdown, get more points, take the lead. So huge play right there. They challenge it, Kansas City. Turns out they were right. They get the first down. So again, look, it's 4th and inches, 4th and 1. Kansas City's probably picking that up anyways. But the stats actually tell you that they're not a great, 4th-and-1 team, even 3rd-and-1. They're not a great team at short down situations. So who knows? I mean, I'm confident that Mahomes, Reed can figure something out, get 1 yard, get a first down. But the stats tell you that throughout the season, they weren't that great at 4th-and-1 situations. So, it takes a big call away in terms of what possibly could have happened in that situation. They get the first down, and then a couple plays later, it's a 19-yard touchdown pass to MVS. Again, he just came up big on this drive with the touchdown, with the reaching for the first down, and even he had a big play earlier in the drive. He had a 25-yard catch, which is a big play from him. But the touchdown throw, this is where you can see Mahomes hobbling. He just kind of some pressure in the pocket, steps up, and just throws a dart. I mean, an absolute dart. Fits it in the tightest window of a guy, I think it was Hilton, who was diving for the ball just outside of his fingertips, right in the pocket of MVS, right at the goal line. I mean, it was just a perfect throw. Like, I don't know if there's another quarterback in the league who's making that throw. With pressure in his face, bad ankle, just an absolute missile right perfectly in his chest. It was a great throw. Came on 3rd and 10 as well. I mean, that's, if that's an incompletion right there, whether it's a bad throw, gets tipped by the defender, they're kicking a field goal. You limit them to 3, and that's a huge win for Cincinnati. Instead, it's 6 and an extra point, and they go up 20-13 at this point. A punt from Cincinnati kind of leads you to believe we're getting towards the fourth quarter in this situation. Kind of leads you to think that since Kansas City is going to go down the field and at least get points, to get all the way down to midfield, even past midfield. And this is the one mistake Mahomes made. It's just a shotgun formation. They're trying to do a quick bubble screen to, I think, Kelsey or MVS, whoever it was, on the right side, bottom of the screen. And Mahomes just fumbles it. As he's going to throw it, just never really had the grip of the ball, just fumbles it, loses control of it, bounces around, Cincinnati recovers. Huge change of events. I mean, it looked like they were going down to at least get a field goal in that situation, make it 23-13, 10-point lead in the fourth quarter at home. That's a huge ask for any team to overcome that. Instead, like I said, he fumbles. Cincinnati recovers, and it immediately leads to a touchdown for Cincinnati. So huge change of events. That's at least a 10-point swing. Who knows? Maybe Kansas City even scores a touchdown in that drive. But Bengals go right down the field. Chase has a 35-yard catch. They go all the way down to the 2-yard line. Pirine scores it for the touchdown. Makes it 20-20 in the fourth quarter. Now, Kansas City gets the ball back. They punt. Bengals get the ball. Burrow throws another interception. It was 3rd and 3. They were going deep. So I think it was T. Higgins. Yeah, they were going deep. It was at least like 30 yards down the field that they were going. So it gets picked off, but it's kind of a punt because again, the play was to go deep. So it's not like you were going for a 5-yard catch and it got picked off where they get the ball with really good field position. It was kind of just a long punt anyways, but it still was a turnover, still an interception. Kind of gives you that momentum. I think despite it technically being the same thing because the Chiefs got the ball at the 14-yard line, despite it technically being the same thing as a punt, I think an interception gives you just momentum. It kind of gets the crowd more fired up. Seeing a turnover, gets your defense fired up. It kind of gives the offense a little bit of life. I think it kind of does that. So despite it kind of meaning the same thing as a punt, I think it just gives you that momentum, that energy that your team needs. Doesn't lead to anything. The Chiefs do move the ball down the field, get all the way down to the 37-yard line of Cincy. They do have to punt. Bengals get the ball back, and this is where, the last drive as well, where they had a chance to possibly take the lead. Burrow throws the interception. Another drive for Burrow and the Bengals to get points, take the lead. At this point, it's 2:30 left on the clock. you got to make the plays if you're going to be that type of quarterback. And this is what I think separates Burrow from Mahomes at this point, and I think it should be like that because Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Is that if this is Mahomes on this drive, I'm confident we're scoring. But Burrow just didn't really do much. It's a 10-yard play on first down, 3 yards penalty. It's an incompletion where they call intentional grounding on this play. I think it's close. There are guys somewhat close, but even who was it, Gene Steratore, who was the ref on the call, he even said that it was intentional grounding. So I think you got to kind of believe what he says on that. So it is intentional grounding. Leads to a 3rd and 16. At this point, it's a minute 30 on the clock. They're at their own 10-yard line, Cincinnati. Seems like a stop here. They get the ball back at probably midfield, somewhere around there. You can run the clock down, get a field goal, game over, Chiefs win. This was the biggest play of the game at this point. 3rd and 16, Hayden Hurst is wide open for a 23-yard completion. They go for the double on Higgins, go for the double on Chase. Just kind of miscommunication in the secondary leads to Hurst wide open. Again, pressure was even on Burrow. He was getting sacked all throughout the first half. Even in the second half, not as much. The offensive line played a little bit better, but it was still getting to him. And at this point, it was, Chris Jones started to heat up. Frank Clark was heating up. So pressure was in his face, makes a big-time throw, gets the first down. Then they use their second timeout, 48 seconds on the clock, incompletion, 3rd and 8. He gets sacked by Chris Jones, and this was the biggest defensive play of the game. Chris Jones, unbelievably, coming into this game, had 0 sacks in the postseason. He's played, I think it was 13, 14 games in the postseason. It's crazy how he's never had a sack. He was dominant this regular season, and he's been getting better every single year he's been in the league. He's just been a way better. He was always good on the interior, but now he's just a great pass rusher. And it's just crazy to think that he's never had a postseason sack. He got one in the first half and then got the huge one, his second one of the game at this point. Again, 3rd and 8, Cincy 35-yard line, 44 seconds on the clock. They pick up that first down. A lot of things can happen. They still have a timeout. They still have time on the clock. Get in field goal range. They win that game. Huge sack. 40 seconds on the clock. They have to punt. Kansas City gets a big return of 30 yards. Could there have been a block in the back? Definitely. They didn't call it though. So they get the big return. That would have, at that point the game would have gone to OT. It would have been 30 seconds left. They would have been, instead of at basically midfield, they would have been at the 20-yard line, something like that. So it would have changed a lot of things. But they go 6 yards, timeout, final timeout. Then 2nd and 4 at Cincy's 47-yard line. Incompletion. Again, they're throwing to Sky Moore. They're throwing to backups at this point. No one's in the game for Kansas City except for Kelsey and MVS, I guess. But this is the play of the game, though. 3rd and 4, Cincinnati 47-yard line. Mahomes hasn't used his legs. Again, at this point, only 2 carries for him, where really he didn't really want to run. He just kind of had to. But this time, he decides to run. He scrambles out of the pocket, makes a play with his legs, running out of bounds, picks up the first down. And they get a roughing, unnecessary roughness call on the defense against Osai, who played a great game for the Bengals. He's a good young player, but just hits Mahomes out of bounds. It wasn't questionable, it wasn't controversial. There was a lot of calls in this game that were a lot against the Bengals. The refs gave the Chiefs another chance at 3rd down, despite them still punting at that point. But they got another chance at 3rd down. There was some missed calls for the Bengals. There was calls against them. A lot of stuff, but it didn't, it came down to this play. And at this point, there's, 10 seconds on the clock, something like that, 8 seconds on the clock, something like that on the clock. And he goes out of bounds. He would have only been at the 43-yard line. So you can't really kick a field goal. I mean, that's almost a 60-yard field goal. You could try it. I mean, rather try that or Hail Mary, but either one is very unlikely to convert. But with the unnecessary roughness call, it's 15 more yards, gets them all the way down to the 27-yard line of Cincinnati, leads to a 45-yard field goal for Harrison Butker, who hasn't been automatic this year. I think, the last couple of years, he's been the second best kicker in the league. This year, he got injured on the opening kickoff of the regular season. Never, he came back, but really wasn't ever the same. But this game, he came up big. Again, leads to the 45-yard field goal. He makes it, and the game is over. So, huge win from Kansas City, 23-20, like I said. Again, Mahomes was easily the MVP of this game. Made all the big plays when he had to. Just put the team on his back. I can't say it enough. He just absolutely took this game over. And again, that's with an ankle sprain. That's with an injury to his ankle, to his right ankle as well. Limits his mobility, where it comes more into play in the playoffs, where he likes to run the ball more, and obviously just making throws, off schedule as well. So, huge valiant effort from Mahomes leads them to another Super Bowl. Again, I picked them because of the legacy, cemented it a little bit more. Now he's got to win another one because, again, if he does lose it, that's still one Super Bowl in 5 years. That's not the best, especially when you've been 5 straight AFC Championship games at home. But at least gives himself a shot, gives this team a shot. Kelsey can get more healthy. Mahomes can get more healthy. The receivers can get more healthy now. So it was a lot of big things. But yes, it is going to be Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. I can already tell you, Eagles already opened up as favorites. I think that's fair. I think they probably are the better team, but I trust Mahomes more. So I haven't made my pick yet. Again, we'll talk about it next week when we really dive into the game. But as of now, I'm not decided on who is going to win this game. I've not picked yet, but I can just tell you that when you have Mahomes on your side, it's hard not to go with the Chiefs. But we'll talk about it next week. So again, that video will be next week, leading up to the game on Sunday. And the next video you'll see, I guess the next video you'll see will probably be the recap of just what's gone on around the NFL. Head coaches being hired, players retiring. That's a big one, and different stuff like that. Still have a couple of vacancies left in the NFL, which maybe by the time the next video comes out, those will already be finalized and head coaches will be hired, but I guess we'll see. But that'll be the next one, and then most likely will be the Super Bowl, lead-up video. And don't worry, I haven't forgot about the Cowboys video. Just a lot of things have happened within their team, with guys getting hired and fired. So, kind of waiting to see when that dies down to really dive into it. But yes, those will be the next couple of videos. I thank you for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.